Good morning, everybody. Today we're talking about 10 tips for following God when you don't feel like it. I've been learning a lot about how to choose to follow God, what that looks like. Tip number one, feelings are super important to not ignore, and you can't just act like they're not there. But what's so common in our world today is just to sort of say, if I feel it, I have to be true to it, I have to like pay attention and do exactly what it says. And that's actually not biblical at all. It says there's a way that seems right to a man, but in the end it leads to death. It's kind of like Google Maps. Feelings aren't very good at telling you where to go, but they are good at telling you where you are. Got a full day today. The internship starts today. I'm excited. It's gonna be good. Are you ready for your big day? Tip number two is surround yourself with people that you want to be like, people that you look up to. People who, when you're in those places of challenge, are going to tell you to keep going, to press in. You need people around you that can remind you of the truth, that can help you stay the course. All of us think that we're so individual, we're so unique, but the reality is that we're just the result of our closest friends. So look around you and see, are the people around you, the people that you're spending the most time with, are those the people you want to be like? Because it's going to be an uphill battle if they're all pulling you down and you're trying to somehow still stay strong. Tip number three is to do it anyway. Read your Bible, pray. There's always been a faith element to Christianity. You know, it says in Hebrews, without faith it's impossible to please God, because we must come to Him, we must believe that He exists, and that He rewards those who earnestly seek Him. So there's a choice to believe something that doesn't match our feelings, doesn't match our experience. And that choice of faith is a part of following God. It's impossible to please God apart from it. But you have permission to do what you don't feel like doing in faith. And as a bonus, it pleases God and there's a reward for it. All right, tip number four, if you're not feeling like following God, pay attention to those feelings. The feelings of anxiety, depression, exhaustion, boredom, they have sources, and you should pay attention to what their sources are. I mean, sometimes those things are situations or circumstances. It could be more basic than you think. You know, how healthy is your environment? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you staying physically fit? But sometimes they're spiritual, and I think you have to sort of approach that like it's a discovery process, but sort of decide, I don't want to stay where I'm at, so I need to figure out how I'm going to grow. I don't want to stay in the place of boredom. I don't want to stay in the place of disconnection. I don't want to stay in the place of anxiety or depression. Those are alarms. Those are indicators that something isn't right, that something needs to change. Let God have permission to change things that you think are impossible, because sometimes we look at our circumstances and say, well, that's just the way it is. No, it's not. God can change anything. So breaking down, this is where we're going to have our internship in here.
I know the interns, the other interns, but the new ones.
This is tip number 5. A great thing to do is to go back to the last thing that you felt confidently was the Lord. Go back and look at your journal. Go back and evaluate, even talk to the Lord. You know, you might be misreading timing or some aspect of it, but go back to the last thing God said. Tip number 6 is get off social media, stop watching movies, stop numbing or disengaging your heart. Feel what you're feeling. Journal. You need to like stop zoning out and numbing. It's kind of like the drug of our day. You know, if you're feeling depressed, just watch a movie. If you're feeling lonely or sad, or tap into a different reality and it'll solve it. And it's just not, it's not solving it, it's just making it feel a little bit better. Look at these kidlums. Look at these little blessings from the Lord. You guys are my reward. How are you? Hi, buddy. How are you? Tip number 7 is to admit to God that you're bored. A lot of us like to think that it's better if we don't admit that we're bored, or admit that we don't really want to spend time with God or be with God or whatever. But it's so much better if we're just honest, and then He can work with where we actually are. All right, so this is tip number 8. If you're life has just been in flux and change, that's kind of overwhelming and stressful, and start to connect and start to see things develop. It takes time for things to work together, and so give yourself some of that time. I mean, like all this stuff that I'm talking about in this video is true of me in some regards in the last year or two. You know, we're in a bit of a crazy change season right now. It's like, just give yourself some time, Phil, to be where you are and let things sort of settle. And the world hasn't really been normal for the last year. I'm leaving. There's a tornado in the storm, my wife is telling me. What am I on? Tip number 9, I think. Tip number 9. Remember that doing the right thing doesn't count if your heart is in the wrong posture. That man looks at the outside appearance, but God looks at the heart. So if you think that by doing all the right things and not doing the wrong things, you're good to go, it's actually not about our behavior. And I think the key here is to recognize the heart posture is more important than the actions, and it's actually where the actions come from. So if you are not tracking with the Lord on the heart, then it really doesn't matter where you're at, because God's looking at your heart. In Revelation 3, it talks about, I wish you were either hot or cold, but since you're neither, I'm going to spit you out of my mouth. But being in this position of like, that's actually a pretty serious deal, and shouldn't feel bad about that. You should just be very motivated to change it. It's raining harder by the second.
Did you see the tornado?
I did not. Good things right. Okay, poor Mellow. Are you okay, puppy? Life for us recently has been full of blessing and full of strength, faith strengthening things like buying a house. It's also been a hard season in a lot of ways to just trust the Lord, to believe the Lord for why we're here, what's going on. We're just not seeing all of it. We know we're in the right place, we know we're here, but it just doesn't feel great. And you know what? That's just part of following Jesus sometimes, and if that's what the season is, then I'm here for it. Yeah, I am.
I'm actually cutting
Should I advertise your services?
Nah, you can
The haircut in here.
Oh, that looks
Your hair looks really good.
Tip number 10. Sometimes you need, like, if you recognize a pattern that's repeating and you've worked on changing it and it's still kind of getting stuck, especially around that idea of boredom or just not feeling like engaging, there is a need to break free from lies and bondage from the past. Here's your basic idea. Ask God, what are the lies I'm believing behind this this pattern, this issue, and write it down. Write down what you feel like He's telling you. Go just through a process. Is there someone you need to forgive? Is there a sin that you need to confess? And then taking that lie that you've been believing and saying, I'm not going to believe that lie anymore. But then you ask the Lord, what's the truth? What do you want to say? And just by stepping into beginning to speak that truth and believe that truth, there's power in that. There's power in believing truth. You shall know the truth and it shall set you free. I've felt overwhelmed, unable to face all the demands placed on me as a father, as a husband, as a follower of Jesus. Honestly, it's impossible, even if you don't have all those roles, to do it right. And I have felt a bit of a victim mindset of saying like, I don't know if I can do this, or it's too much. Giving myself grace or a pass more than grace when I'm not even engaging, not even trying, because it's just the circumstances are rough. The lie is believing that I wasn't enough, and the truth was that He spoke to me was, I have everything I need in every circumstance for every good work. Our channel is about sharing openly and honestly from our experience in missions, our experience of saying yes to God, in hopes that it'll encourage you to say yes to God, remove obstacles from your path, your journey of saying yes to God. See you next time. Thanks. Bye.